Hello, this is part 5 of our Time for Machine Heavenly Hercules assembly video. Now, first part I would like to show you is this step here that I mentioned in the last video, and I have a slight correction. I think I mentioned that you should go ahead and bend this down, the bulkhead down, and attach it, which really that needs to wait until this axle is inserted through this piece right here. They show it dashed right into the gear, but instead you take these 4 pieces of the shaft, which are taken from sheet number 1. You take these 4 pieces off, you insert 2 next to each other, and these 2 in a crossways into the first 2 pieces side by side, and you end up with an axle. Then you slide on the 2 flywheel pieces, and I recommend filing the shafts like before, but you can't insert this gear yet, and you can't put the bulkhead down yet because this shaft has to go through this hole before you can slide this gear on. And then you can bend the tabs that, pointed at the wrong thing here, before bending the tabs over on the gear. Also, you bend this piece over that the shaft goes through, and then you can fold the bulkhead down and bend the eyelets and twist the eyelets under the floor that I mentioned on the last video. So I just wanted to show you those steps before I proceed, and I wanted to apologize for making any mistakes on the last video. But even if you did attach this bulkhead down first, you can kind of untwist this on both sides and lift the whole assembly back up carefully. But what will happen is this part of the forward bulkhead actually has the point on it for the forward part of the axle. It has the hole in it for the axle. And then this is the rear part for the axle right here. So this will go through here, like I mentioned, before you can put this gear on, and then fold the tines over to hold the gear in place. And then when you fix the bulkhead, you kind of push forward on the bulkhead and tilt this up and make sure it goes into the hole of the bulkhead, the shaft, and then secure it to the floor and bend the tabs here and bend the tabs underneath the floor. So next, we start with building the parts for the wing supports here. Now I noticed that they don't tell you on this particular part, which is coming off of sheet number 3, there are some serrated lines that I call bend lines. At first I thought they should be facing forward, but actually there should be facing aft, because in a much later step they end up turning these tabs inward towards the aircraft. So I'm just saying that they don't show the orientation of this piece whatsoever, what side the bend line should be on. So at first I thought they should be facing this way, but actually they're facing what will end up being towards the aircraft, or towards this side that's being bent. But then they'll show you bending this part, and it'll end up looking like it does right here. And then you're going to take and insert it into the two angled slots just behind the flywheel. And then you're going to take the two long sections and you're going to end up bending them on the other perforated part. The first bend was done on the inside. The second bend will be here. And then they will fold back this way to where these pieces face inward. And you'll see where at first the curved pieces are shown pointed outward, but later they're going to end up turning these curved points inward, which you'll see much later. So that's why I'm saying that the slots or the bend lines should be on the back side of this, because they'll be hidden when you bend the pieces in. Also, there are tabs right here on the back of these bent pieces that'll end up going into this rear bulkhead as you fit it together. And also, these little tips of these tabs are going to go into these slots that are bent up on the floor of the aircraft. So here you see that. Then they take the tabs and they twist them, and you're also on the opposite side. And then here's where I'm talking about, where the tabs go into the bulkhead and then they get twisted. Same way with the one on the right hand side. And here's where they show these tabs being bent, but I thought they'd already shown these being bent previously, and now they show the ones under the floor being twisted. Maybe they wanted you to wait until all this was finished before they wanted to show you to twist them. So now we take this little tab piece off of sheet number 2. It's highlighted right here. It's a little 2-slot oval piece shown right there. And then you take part of the nose cone from sheet number 4, which is more like the front windshield. And once again, they do not show any bend lines on the part whatsoever. But I'm saying that the bend lines should be facing upward as you make these two little bends, and as you make these bends for the tabs here. Then you're going to flip the part completely 180 degrees to where the front part is now facing you, and you're going to carefully curve this piece around and make careful bends to where these two tabs that we looked at right here are facing together, and then you curve this piece around, and then you put the little slotted piece that we talked about onto the two tabs. Then each of the two tabs is folded opposite of each other to hold it into place. Then you carefully lower this piece down over the front nose and carefully spread it to where these little tabs will insert into the slots right here on these tabs on either side. And then you're going to twist them to hold it in place. And this is what I've ended up with so far. As you can see, my nose piece is in place. I've bent the tabs. I corrected the part that I mentioned to you with the bulkhead. You can see here, I get in close, the details of how some of the bends look. And you can see that I've twisted the tabs after putting them through the outer parts. And then here's the two tabs I was talking about earlier from these bent pieces get pushed in to the rear bulkhead, and then they get twisted. And here's the parts that they show curved outboard but later get curved in, and notice you can see the curved bend lines that will end up being hidden once these pieces are curved inward. Also bent the bottom nose pieces up a little bit better to where everything is aligned a little bit better. And notice you don't see any of the bend lines once the part is bent and put into place. Also, we can take the gear, notice how it moves freely because I've filed the shafts, and I'm imagining that the flywheels are on there, the weights or whatever you want to call it, to help the motion stay moving once once it unwinds. It might spin for a couple extra seconds or something like that. So this is what I have so far on the Hercules, Heavenly Hercules Time for Machine Assembly video, part number 5. Thank you for watching.